See, the issue with you is that you barely ever train your discipline. You drift through life on autopilot. No real resistance, no solid foundation. And that's okay until you start crying about why success hasn't shown up for you. Somewhere along the journey, we lose clarity and forget who we actually are. We build this pretend version of ourselves out of labels, stories, and old identities, and we start living from that place. We get confused about how life works, how we're supposed to respond to challenges, and we shrink ourselves into a smaller version of who we were meant to be. Because if you move through life holding back, and most of us do, you'll always feel that gap. Ask yourself honestly if you've done everything you could. Most people would admit they haven't. We've been limiting ourselves. We hold on to dreams we don't chase, ideas we never act on, chances we're too scared to take. You refuse to elevate your standards. You refuse to stretch your limits. You refuse to give just a little bit more, that extra inch.
Everything you want begins with small, consistent actions that steer your life toward your vision. You have to want it enough to accept that if you're truly pursuing something meaningful, real work must be put in. You can't look for shortcuts. You can't expect a free ride. And you must understand that there is a toll every time you step toward greatness. Whatever your goal is, you can begin right now, today, this moment. It's still wide open. You can start shifting your life immediately. You empower the present by infusing it with the future you want. Nothing is preventing you from acting except your hesitation. And you never have to feel helpless again if you start today, because you can start today. Self-discipline is the core of everything meaningful in your life. You must cultivate it. When you finally see that you always have the option to choose differently and create a new outcome, you realize your true power. That's the authority you carry. No matter the circumstance, you can choose a new thought, a new belief, a new lens. All of that is within your control. If your why is strong, you can endure any challenge. When you discover who you truly are, you understand that you've been granted power and influence over every area of your life, every dimension of your existence. But you only unlock it through the struggle, through the resistance. Improve yourself, expand, learn, evolve, live boldly, standing against weakness and refusing to decay. Fight back against the temptations of instant gratification, against the lure of easy rewards. Battle them for every inch they try to steal from you. Never give up ground. When you make a commitment, you force every part of you, the scattered, conflicted, inconsistent parts, to move in one unified direction. Commitment is the act of bringing every piece of yourself into alignment. And once you're aligned, once your inner world is integrated, you can apply that unified power to anything. But you must unify yourself first. It's the natural development of a human being. Children begin as a chaotic mix of impulses and emotions fighting for attention. Slowly, they learn to unify those impulses into play, into focus, into shared interactions. That's integration, not suppression, not force, not denial. True integration. And when you're integrated, all your inner horses pull your chariot in the same direction. That's when you actually reach your destination. And even better, that's when you finally choose a destination truly worth reaching. So that's another thing conservatives often emphasize when speaking to young people. You must learn to build personal discipline. And why? Not to turn you into someone's servant, but to make you the master of your own life. Using a term people avoid now, even though it applies only to yourself, not to anyone else. In the beginning, you have to accept instruction from someone wiser than you, because you don't yet have the insight or the capability to guide yourself fully. Everyone understands this deep down. They feel guilty when they promise themselves a fitness routine, go to the gym a few times, and then stop. Nobody feels good about quitting. They beat themselves up for it. We all recognize that we need discipline, and we all know that we have to submit ourselves to a structured process of learning. That's part of what gets twisted when everything is blamed on so-called oppressive systems. But discipline isn't oppression. It's no more slavery than playing a well-designed game is slavery. A good game gives freedom, not chains. You hear people talk about the path of least resistance, and it's true, most choose it. I've always believed that becoming a man is something you have to earn. Many don't share my outlook, and that's fine. I'm not telling anyone to become David Goggins. My path isn't glamorous. It's exhausting. It's painful. But I realized early on that my hardships became opportunities once I stopped drowning in self-pity. I had my phase of poor me. I'm human. But that mindset only trapped me deeper in the life I hated. When you see your obstacles the way most people do, as curses, you stay stuck. Why me? Why won't life give me a break? Why wasn't my family better? Why wasn't my school better? Why wasn't my luck better? People build their lives out of wishful thinking. At some point, I flipped the question and asked, how can this actually be used to work for me? What most people never do is pause to listen when they're in their darkest moments. But that darkness can be one of the greatest classrooms in life. If you can sit in that pit long enough to think clearly, you'll find there's a huge amount of strength hidden inside your failures, your pain, your struggle. Why? Because you're still breathing. You're still standing. There's power in that alone. I remember thinking, man, this is raw energy. This can be fuel. And from there, you flip everything. You think, how many men would even attempt what I'm about to attempt? When I was at the lowest point of my life, when I could barely walk, much less run, I made the choice to call a recruiter and try to become a Navy SEAL. There's power in making a move that most people would call insane. They look at you and say it's ridiculous, but they don't understand what's happening inside. I had this voice in my head that I kept running from. I was terrified of water. I was terrified of anything that made me feel like an outsider. I didn't accept myself, so I kept chasing whatever felt comfortable. I always took the softer path, but that voice wouldn't leave. It kept whispering, you've got something. You're capable, but you're going to have to fail a lot first. That voice followed me everywhere. And it kept saying, if you face these things, you'll discover they're not as terrifying as you think. Persistence is simply discipline expressed over time. Your ability to push forward despite setbacks, despite disappointments, despite temporary defeats, this ability is the single most crucial factor in whether you succeed. Napoleon Hill said, persistence is to character what carbon is to steel. Success is built on persistence. Failure is built on quitting too early. There's an undeniable connection between discipline and self-worth. Every time you force yourself to do the right thing at the right time, even when you don't feel like it, your self-esteem rises. And that's exactly why discipline and persistence are so tightly linked. Every time you push yourself to continue, your confidence grows. Each act of discipline strengthens all the others. Each act of persistence reinforces your foundation. As you keep doing this, day after day, you begin to respect yourself more. Eventually, you become stronger, more sure of yourself. Eventually, you become unstoppable. Persistence carries its own reward. Every time you push yourself to keep going, whether the task is big or small, you instantly feel more capable and more proud of yourself. When you choose to give more than what's required, when you put in effort beyond what you're paid for or what others expect, your confidence rises. You feel stronger and more in command of your own direction. In your work, when you consistently go above and beyond, you align yourself with excellence. The biggest difference between people who win and people who lose is straightforward. Winners refuse to quit, and quitters never win. Your success depends heavily on how well you handle setbacks. Your level of responsibility, your ability to respond, reflects how prepared you are to rise. When you face a major obstacle or sudden problem, You'll feel shaken for a moment. It hits like an emotional punch to the gut. You may freeze for a few seconds or minutes. In that window, discouragement shows up. Self-pity shows up. You ask yourself, why is this happening to me? But what matters isn't how hard you fall. It's how quickly you stand back up. Your mission is to rebound fast. Strength in the middle of unexpected failures is essential for lasting success. Remember the warrior's creed. I will lay me down to bleed a while and then rise and fight again. So don't be alarmed or rattled when things fall apart. Even your best plans will sometimes collapse. Instead of acting surprised, expect challenges and setbacks to be part of the journey. Take a breath, gather what's left, and keep moving forward.